when we say drift from tradition, that's what Harry did as well. We're doing it. Is this it? Are we going to do it?
Yeah, we'll do it. So we're going to try it with the Mevo camera. So we'll see kind of what that does. I'm going to try to mess with a couple things here so that it makes it just a little bit more interesting. We'll be able to zoom in on you a little bit better. We'll see what that looks like.
Hi, everybody.
And then we can have it wide. We can do a bunch of different things, so it'll be a little bit more interesting than just doing that. So we need to start the episode. How should we start it every time? So this is episode number 1. So we have no clue what we're doing.
Yes, this is the launch of Vardon, and we're going to make it it's going to be a big thing. It's going to be huge. So this is just step 1.
Yeah.
We're trying to cover all of the components.
It'd be kind of cool if we started the podcast with kind of some kind of measuring stick, something where we're like, this is where we're at. So that, say 6 months from now, we jump on and we're like, all right, here's the update. But what would those things be that were, so.
Would it be followers or revenue or?
Yeah, I think stuff like that, right?
Or both, or all of them.
Yeah.
Or I don't know.
I think before we jump to that, let's discuss a little bit better. We've kind of talked about what we want to do for the podcast, but let's maybe just go into why we're even going to do a podcast.
Yes. Okay, that's good. Well, why don't you start? Because this is your idea that you had that you pitched to me on Water Therapy Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And I just says, okay, sweet, let's do it. So I think you should start with start with corporate movement, establish, and then your idea.
Let's start way back.
Even further, like high school.
Clear back when I had zits all over.
Mountain Mafia.
Mountain Mafia. So 10th grade. Oh yeah. This is going to be a little bit more of a story. I don't know how much time we have.
That's okay.
But we'll figure it out. Because we kind of got to describe why Mountain Mafia even exists. So way back then, it's going to show my age, but skiers and boarders kind of hated each other. There was this animosity. But our crew was all skiers and boarders. And so anyways, we all rode together. But at the resorts, we couldn't go upside down. Have I already told you this story?
No, this is new.
Okay, so.
The upside down part.
Yeah, so at the ski resorts, you couldn't go upside down. So if you did flips at all, they come and cut your pass.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, so 10th grade, every time we were going to do something, we'd build a kicker and we'd be having to just make sure see where ski patrol was and all that kind of stuff. They weren't around, then it was all right, sweet. So we could go and we could do backflips and stuff.
Right.
I think I was kind of a wuss at the time though, because I didn't do backflips. The first time I did backflips was in 11th grade. But you couldn't even think about doing it. So anyways, I had a dream that we took over this mountain and we kind of offed all the ski patrol. And so we became the Mountain Mafia. That's where Mountain Mafia came from.
Okay.
And so it was kind of like Snowbird Alta, where Alta's you can only ski. It was almost like that, taking over the resort and be no, this is for everybody.
Gotcha.
So we kind of did that kind of a scenario. So we started just making shirts and stuff. I wasn't even thinking, hey, I'm going to make a company out of this. But I did that through high school, and still I wasn't thinking, hey, I'm going to build this thing into a company. It was just something that was fun, that just grew. We had more and more friends kind of doing it. So senior year, we had more than 100 people that just had Mountain Mafia swag. And so we had hoodies and shirts and stuff. Anyways, I left on an LDS mission, got back, and started getting it pushed out to a bunch of different retail shops and stuff. And I ran into a company that was looking, I was going to have them produce my goods, so they were going to do the screen printing and stuff. And they were like, hey, you should actually join the company. I was going to be just a second employee, so just basic startup, kind of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Whereas but that company, we didn't know what we were doing at all. I was just given a phone book and it was hey, just start selling. And I was the reason I thought, hey, this might be a good idea is because I was if I can understand the backside of the industry, then I can really build a brand that can actually grow and kind of do more things. But if I understand all the manufacturing, the materials, really all the ins and outs of the backside of the whole organization, then I could actually launch a brand. So
right.
Anyways, that's kind of the beginnings. That's the origins of everything.
Figuring it out on your own. Hey, you know what? You joined with the company and you wanted to figure out all of the everything, right?
Yeah, everything
from when the shirt is made to how it's packaged, to how it's shipped, to how it's delivered to the customer, and then how you can repeat that process over and over.
Exactly. Even from steps before that where it's like creating the tech pack. So even just the drawings that this is exactly where the stitches are going to be on the shirt, like all that process. So I had the opportunity to do that for several companies. Worked on the designs of shirts, worked on the fulfillment, the warehousing, logistics, like all that stuff. And then also, that's all just the producing the goods.
Right.
Then I also focused on actually the marketing. So marketed a bunch of different companies, worked on contests, and have a nonprofit that we built to over 1 million followers. So figuring out how to navigate social networks, but actually do it like with a cause, like with a soul, rather than just for the number.
Right.
And anyways.
In the meantime, you're going to college for business, right?
Yeah. So I kind of bounced around a ton.
Okay.
Because I was going to school for architecture, and then I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. So I actually started a small architect firm and started figuring that out, doing work for contractors. I was like, I want to do much more than just architecture.
Right.
So then I switched to business.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it actually took me a long time to graduate because I scaled back to like 1 or 2 classes a semester. Most people didn't even know I graduated. I finally graduated 2018, so just barely.
Oh, really? Yeah. Me too. I graduated 2019. Oh no, I think it might have said 2020. I don't know. Yeah, but it took me a long time too.
Yeah.
Just because family and kids and whatnot.
Yeah. So anyways, navigated everything. So that kind of brings us to where we're at, right?
Right. Well, I would say though, so you learn the ins and outs of the business from start to finish and all the channels. And then is that when you started Corporate Movement?
No, so Corporate Movement was 2009. There was like a big recession.
Okay.
2008 or 7-8. 2009, I was working with another company. We actually did screen printing and embroidery. We did all that in-house. And I wanted to start expanding it and had the idea for Corporate Movement.
Yeah.
Didn't have a name because I was wanting to do it with those partners, but they weren't wanting to put money into other things. And so I said, I'm going to split and do this.
Yeah.
And so I started Corporate Movement in 2009. And anyways, continued to use them as kind of a sister company for a bunch of things. Now we use a bunch of other companies.
And like Corporate Movement in a nutshell, if we're going to explain what Corporate Movement is, it's like company branding and swag.
Yeah.
For corporations, obviously.
Yeah. We try to simplify because it's like literally more than 1 million products.
Right.
But there's like 3 categories. So there's apparel. So that's everything wearable.
Yeah.
There's promotional items. So that's like the pens and pop sockets and like all the swag stuff. And then printing. So that's from banners to signs to car wraps to business cards, all that kind of stuff.
Right. And it's all solidified in Corporate Movement.
In Corporate Movement, yep.
Okay, sweet. Then that's been going since 2009.
Yep.
In the meantime, you have established as well.
Yep.
And this is all going to be very important because this is going to tell the rest of our story a lot better. This is just kind of the groundwork that I think everyone needs to know, right? So,
yeah.
And established is more of the digital side of businesses, right?
Yeah,
social
correct.
media marketing and
building websites, doing social media marketing, really strategy on the digital side. So really figuring the ins and the outs of identifying stakeholders, creating intentional interactions with them. And so that's where Corporate Movement and Established kind of create that entire mix where it's intentional interactions, whether it's physical or digital.
Right. Okay.
All the way around.
And so now you have both. And so now this is why it's the fun part. The fun part is what I always tell people whenever I'm trying to explain this to them. I tell them that you've been in this industry, for a very long time. And when you're in this industry, you're talking and you're collaborating with corporations. And there's, what you have found is there is a gap of, hey, we want something that's unique and stylish, but we don't want it to be crazy that you can't wear it in an executive meeting, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so instead of you trying to find another brand that would, put those two together, you decided to start Vardon.
Yeah, well, and part of that is because we look for another brand. There's brands that are kind of trying to do it, but they are so tied into being traditional that they're not quite accomplishing what we're wanting to accomplish.
Yeah.
If they did, then I think we'd probably just use them. But there's not really companies that are doing exactly what we're trying to do.
Yep. And so I think it was just really awesome when you're like, because for me, like when you just, because I've actually come try to work for Establish or whatever, and I was just trying to make sense of everything, and then when you didn't give up on me or whatever, and then you offered, told me about Vardon, I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and do this. And at first I thought we were just gonna sell a golf glove and a polo,
Yeah.
And then after you had told me the story of who Harry Vardon was, we all know, like in golf there's the Vardon grip, like that's what it's very common in the golf world to know what the Vardon grip is. Sometimes some people, none of these younger kids probably don't even know.
A lot of people don't know the name, but most people know what the grip is when you're like, oh yeah, it's where you overlap the fingers. Right. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. And so when you found out, and then is that how you came up with, because were you playing golf and you're like, who is Vardon and why do we have this grip? And is that when you learned about?
So with corporate movement, and really it's kind of established now doing kind of the digital marketing for companies, a part of that is actually doing branding. And so really what happened is I kept putting the white glove on, and I was just like, I'd have the white glove and then I'd have some really cool funky socks, like Stance socks. I'd be like, we really need to do a really interesting glove. And so the idea this was probably 2 years ago, started formulating like, hey, let's just build a glove company. But the whole idea was just, okay, we're just going to build gloves. And when I was starting to figure out a name for it, I started researching gloves, and I was kind of went through what I do for a bunch of other companies where I'm like, okay, can we have a name that actually is significant
for the glove?
And okay. So I was like, okay, what's interesting about golf gloves? So I did a bunch of research in a bunch of different areas, and I came upon Harry Vardon. I hadn't even heard that it was called the Vardon grip. Mm. And so started talking to some other golf friends, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know the Vardon grip. But lots of people still don't. But you look it up, and it's like, yep, Vardon grip. That's exactly what it's called.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that there's a name for it. I mean, most people are like, oh yeah, it's the overlapping finger grip or whatever. But since it was based on the glove itself, it was like, hey, let's have it be Harry Vardon.
Right. So that and that's what's awesome is because then as we were talking about, Vardon in a golf glove, that's exactly what I thought we were going to do, sell golf gloves and then maybe, a couple of shirts. But then as we sit down and I say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I want to do this with you. I'm in. And my stoke meter was like at 10%. Like, cool, I'm going to help with a golf glove company.
Yeah. And
then as we sat down and we were brainstorming ideas and using your knowledge, we kind of put together a pretty good business plan. For what we want to do with Vardon.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting because, like I said, I've been kind of marinating on it for like a couple years. And it was actually this summer. I was actually just north of West Yellowstone at like this dude ranch where we take the girls and they get to go out and ride horses and do all that kind of stuff. And I woke up. Yeah, my daughters. Not the girls. Yeah, we should clarify.
Yeah. Just want to make sure you're going out with a bunch of girls, taking girls on horses. Yeah. Well, it's your daughters. You have two girls. Yeah.
Yeah, my daughters, but it's actually the whole family. So it's like my parents. Yeah, very different than the girls. Good call. And just to clarify, there aren't the girls anywhere. Like that's just good to clarify.
Yeah.
Anyways, I woke up one morning and I was like talking to my wife, and I'm like, I just kind of every piece kind of fell together as to how we were going to be pushing this brand, and it's not going to be just a glove. And we've been doing Wednesday water therapy before that, and then everything kind of came together. It was like right after I got back from that trip, I started talking to you, and I was like, hey, let's sit down and talk about this.
Right. Yeah. And so then I did some research, found out, Harry Vardon, and like, okay, I get it. He's a rock star. He was the king of golf back in his day, late 1800s.
Yep.
Late 1800s and early 1900s. He was like the first traveling golf star.
Yeah.
And so, he started out as a caddy and then started playing and won 6 championships and won U.S. Open in the U.S. And I truly believe that Harry Vardon was the one that really helped grow the golf business in the United States.
Yeah, absolutely. He did that international tour, and when he did that, really it was kind of, it had been played here, but it really didn't have the notoriety that it did once he kind of brought it around. Yeah. So yeah, like you said, he kind of became the first international superstar.
Right, yep. And then like with his story and with, the Vardon grip, but like the thing I really like about, when we say drift from tradition, that's what Harry did as well.
Yeah.
Like the first, he wore knickerbockers, and probably at that time in the 1800s, they were like, dude, you look like a goof, but like they really couldn't say anything because he was good, like he's,
Well, and it was just interesting too, because he wore them, and now we think about old golf, and that's all we think about.
Right.
Right. So typically pioneers are doing something that people are like, well, they don't say, hey, that's way innovative. They're like, well, that's way different. That's too far or whatever. But he didn't do something that was like disrespectful to the game.
Right.
But he did bring his own style to the game.
Yeah, it's comfortable, Yeah. So that's what's really cool, and that's what I like about this journey that we're doing. We're gonna be the Knickerbockers.
Yeah.
And so let's tell them about the Venn diagram. Tell them about the Venn diagram. Are we ready for it? Like, are we at that stage yet, or do we get enough background yet first?
Yeah, I don't. Is there anything else you don't know or something that you thought was interesting? One thing that I think is important is, as we've talked about this, and we have a small team now, more than just you and I, but it has nothing to do with me. And that's one thing that's really great about it too, is that it doesn't have my name on it, has nothing really to do with me. And when I was thinking about it, I wasn't thinking, how can I have a brand that represents me? It was, how can I have a brand that I identify with?
Yeah.
And I think that's why everybody's excited about it, is because it has zero to do with Jordan Avner. It's about kind of a movement.
Right.
A movement that Harry didn't start, but he definitely embodied.
Right.
And we've been living, and this brand really kind of represents that. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like the backstory was a lot about me, and so I just kind of wanted to make that clear that it's like, I don't know, it's, having done this with corporate movement as well, I guess just part of the backstory is I've heard over and over and over again from a bunch of different clients, they're like, we want something that is different and is unique, and to simplify it in words, they still wanted it to be classy. They wanted it to be something that still the executives were excited about, but that the new workforce was way excited about too, if we could kind of get that balance. That's where kind of the Venn diagram comes in.
Right, yeah, yep. Okay, cool. Well then, because this is my favorite part. From here going forward, this is my favorite part. Because now my stoke meter, when Jordan first told me my stoke meter was at 10%, after we kind of sat down and went to lunch and kind of talked about it more and more, my stoke meter kept going up.
Yeah.
And I think where it really hit me the most is when we drew the Venn diagram.
Yeah.
And so I'll tell that story. So when we were like, hey, what are we going to be about if we're going to do this as a company? And when you got up, we were sitting in a conference room, just me and Jordan, and we're like, okay, what are we about? He drew a circle, and it was, this is your professional world. Your professional world, corporate meetings, punch lists, budgets, whatever. Like, you have things that you have to do and you have to hit, and very organized.
Yeah.
And then we have our personal side. Like, for me, I'm a huge water sports and outdoors enthusiast, so wakeboarding was kind of like what I've been known for. But I really love dirt biking, and I love snowmobiling. And then there's so many outdoor recreation experiences, and that's crazy. Like, it's all over. Like, it's just fun patterns. Mm-hmm. So we had those two circles, and then in the middle is where Vardon is really going to come in. Like, Vardon is going to be able to, you're going to be able to identify as, hey, I like to be in the outdoors and have fun, wakeboard, surf, snowboard, mountain bike, whatever. I can represent that in a professional manner, and that's what Vardon is about.
Yeah, that intersection, right?
Yeah. And then when we were sitting there, we were sitting there, what do we call this again? And I called my buddy, because whenever I don't know something, I always call other people, And I just, I called my buddy. I was like, hey, bud, remember when we were in school and we drew the two circles, and then in the middle, you had the common ground? And he was like, yeah, I remember doing that. And then in the background, his wife goes, it's called a Venn diagram.
Like, you idiots.
Yeah. And so they're like, okay, perfect. And then, we put together a cool design, and that's one of the logos that we have now.
Yeah.
I mean, how many logos variations did we come up with?
Oh,
roughly.
So
it's 30?
Yeah, I planned to do 50, and I think we did more than that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And so then we also, because when we first started with the glove, it was going to be Vardon Grip Shop.
Yeah.
And so the octopus, whose name is now Harry. So if you see the octopus, his name is Harry. Because of the octopus in the water, they grip. That's how they survive. That's how they kill their food. That's how they eat. They grip. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we chose an octopus.
Well, but also the brand that we're building, it's really, imagine if you take golf and bring in surf and skate and wake, and really it's going to have a lot of an ocean and kind of a beach influence to it.
Yeah.
And so imagine Ruka or Volcom or any of those brands that we wear a lot of, kind of mixed with kind of the golf world. Because it is a golf brand, but we don't even call ourselves golfers. We golf. You're a better golfer than I am.
I had 24 handicap. That's being honest on my score. That's not counting out of bounds, and
Yeah.
But we love to play. Everyone loves to play golf.
Yeah. So that's what this brand is for. It's for non-golfers and golfers alike. It's for everybody. But it really kind of takes that influence from the beach and from the ocean and that kind of stuff. And so that's part of the reason we have Harry as well.
Right. Yeah. So, well, and so now we're at a point now where we actually have a couple potential sales. We got artwork approval for corporate sales. So we got the website up, and we did our first video shoot. Yeah. Didn't know what we were doing, but we had a cameraman, and we just said, "Hey, we're gonna go boat and take some cool videos."
That was it. We should talk about the story for just a little bit, because there were all sorts of crazy things that happened. We're like, all right, this brand is going to be for guys and for girls, because it's going to have companion styles. It's for the workwear. Workwear just doesn't have the right tone to it. I don't know, but it is clothing that people are going to be wearing in a professional setting.
Right.
But it is going to be for guys and girls. So we're always going to make sure that it's equally represented. And so, anyways, we go boating, and my wife's like, "You planned this really crappy," because she wasn't able to go.
Right. Yeah.
And I started thinking about it. I was like, we really need to plan that out a lot better.
Yeah.
And your fiance wasn't able to go?
Yeah, well, because when we selected our videographer, Adam, we says, hey, let's just do the October 25th.
Yeah.
Or whatever. We just wrote down a date.
Well, we were trying to do it before it got too cold to go.
Right.
Because we're like, okay, we're going to be surfing, wakeboarding behind the boat.
Yeah, and I put it in my internal calendar. And so it just as that day, and I didn't put tentative.
Yeah.
And then, so she actually took that day off. So, but, so anyway.
Oh, yeah, because that's not even, because we planned it out for the 25th. Right. It's not even the 25th yet.
Right, yeah.
Because we ended it last week. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, and then you had called a bunch of people. I was just trying to make sure that I could get there.
Yeah.
When I wakeboard, I can only wakeboard so much because, I'm getting old now, and so, every time I land, it either kills my back or my legs, and, and everyone's like, well, that's why you need to surf. But I have the what do you call it? The wakeboarding stereotype, so. But surfing is still fun. I do like to surf. It's just the mindset of surfing is what I want to change in the boating industry. But anyway, that's a topic for another day.
We'll dive deep.
So anyway, so I wanted to just make sure I was healthy. I had my board, my jacket, and it was going to be a little bit colder. But up here in northern Utah, everyone likes to brag about how far they can go without putting on their wetsuit. But I was just like,
you're like, forget that.
Look, I need to perform and look good and just at least ride and land some tricks. For some content. But and then again, we need to clarify, it wasn't about the actual riding. It was about capturing the lifestyle that we want everyone to be part of. So anyway.
Yeah. So if you go look, whenever you're watching this, if you're watching this real recent, then you're not going to have to go too far back, because we have not even posted our first thing on social media yet.
No, we just barely got them all started.
Yeah.
But it's going
to be one of those first videos, and you'll see that it's not really about the performance, it's about the environment, the lifestyle.
Right.
Having a good time.
Yep, exactly. And Adam did a great job doing that.
Oh yeah, I think he captured that really well.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun to see where this goes, even after.
Yeah. Dude, a couple other side stories though. So Adam's girlfriend was going to go.
Yep.
She didn't end up coming until a little bit later. And then Andrew Bergen, he is a podiatrist. He works on feet and does that kind of stuff. So he was at a hospital. He was going to bring his wife and come, Stacia. And he texts me, and I should probably pull it up, but he's all, dude, I can't come. There's a bomb threat and I'm stuck in the hospital. I was like,
wouldn't they want you to go out of the building? If
yeah, that's what he said too. He's like, so who knows what exactly happened there, but yeah, so he wasn't able to come. So anyways, the only person that was able to come was my sister-in-law for the whole time.
Yep.
And then she brought a friend, Mike, that came, and then
Annalee
ended up coming a little bit later.
Right, for 1-2 shots.
Yeah, for like 2 shots because she stopped by. She was like,
so she did an IV drip up in the valley.
Yeah,
up in the Ogden Valley.
Right.
And so then, yeah.
And so just on her way.
Yeah, she came back, stopped by. I was like, hey, I know you have a short period of time. Let's get 2 shots, and then you can go home.
Yeah.
Because she had, other stuff to do.
Yeah. And then Rachel was there, Adam's girlfriend.
Yeah.
So she came like halfway through.
And Blake's wife bailed too because...
Oh, yeah,
the kids'
daughters.
Yeah, so Blake is also your brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And he's the one that organized our water therapy Wednesdays.
Yeah.
It's his family boat, so...
Yeah, so he's on all the shots and stuff too. He was driving most of the time, and then he surfed and stuff behind the boat too. But anyways, his wife took one for the team, and just watched their kids while we went out and played.
Right. So, and then we did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I felt. Oh, and then the end. So we were planning on doing all that. As you can tell, there's a bunch of people that didn't show up.
The fire.
It is kind of funny, right? Because I feel like when I'm seeing like promo videos and all that kind of stuff, you're like, wow, that's really cool. There's all these people that showed up and stuff. Like, more than half the people didn't show up.
Right.
And we were going to do a fire after. So go ahead and tell that
story.
Yeah,
so all right. And I was just making sure we're keeping everything on time, because we had one day, we had the camera guy there. We had Adam there. He's there ready to roll. But when we pulled off the lake, it was getting dark because we were trying to get in golden hour. Got some good shots in golden hour, which was awesome.
Yeah, you doing big old Rayleighs and all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah, it was, and me and Blake had a moment there where we just looked each other in the eyes, like, dude, we got to get this shot. And it was like I knew what he was doing, he knew what I was doing, and we did a good job.
Nice.
So then we wanted to get some candid shots of being by the fire. So the whole video we wanted to capture is us just going boating, having a good time. At the end, having a fire. Yeah. And so when we go to have a fire, everyone that was with us couldn't go to the fire.
Yeah. So it's just me and you and the camera guy.
The camera guy. And then, but your sister-in-law, Shelly, says, hey, you know what? I know a group of people that are having a fire up on this property. You can go there and see. And so she made a phone call. I was like, hey, I'm going to send my brother-in-law and his buddy, and they're doing a promo video, and they're going to bring you some shirts and stuff and just take video.
Yeah. And
so we're going into the mountains, a place that we don't really even know.
Yeah.
Going to try to meet up with people we have no idea who they are.
Yep.
Remotely, and then we're going to ask to shoot a video with all of them.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, it turned out to be awesome. We met
they were super rad people.
They're so cool. I mean, I don't remember all their names, but all we heard was
Jakey.
Yeah, that's Shelly said, "Hey, Jakey," on the phone. So
we show up and we're like, "Hey, it's Jakey here," and he's like 6'5", like this big old dude.
yeah, and we made it though. And then they were super cool. We gave them some swag and took some video, and then we just let them have it because it's like we were out by a fire, and we don't want to try to resell someone's smoky.
And we were going to wash it and then try to sell it on the website.
Yeah. So
and they were all super cool.
They were stoked. They were stoked about it. So, and so now, that's where we are now. And so, as far as the business goes and everything, we have built the slingshot, the U. We got the rubber bands in place. We got Vardon in the pincher, whatever, and we're right here, ready to let go.
Yeah.
So, I think that's where we're at. We can talk about a couple of the sales leads that we had that are going to help us get stuff kicked off. But other than that,
I don't know. There's just, it feels
have we not covered everything to this point? Right?
Yeah. I think that's
basically it.
Yeah, we've had sales meetings. We weren't even, it's funny because we're going to launch. And if anybody's ever built a brand, everything always takes way longer than you think. And it's always way more expensive than you think. And it still took longer than I thought.
Right, and
even
so
with that in mind.
So to put that in perspective, we have our soft goods, we have some hats and shirts, but we don't even have what we originally started with was a glove and a polo.
Yep.
But it'll come.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Yeah, so we're working with several factories for those to come, but it's unique. The things that we're wanting to do are are different. We're not just saying, hey, just repeat what you've done for us before. So anyways, we want to do it right, but man, we want to do it now.
Right.
It's
because our stoke meters are all the way up.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is that the one thing that's really cool is, like when we tell the story and we tell what it is, everyone's also stoked on it, and that just adds to my stoke meter every time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I actually had a sales call the other day. Somebody was trying to sell me on something, and they were like, hey, so tell me about your business. So I started telling them about Vardon, and what they do, we already take care of in-house. We do some stuff, and so anyways, we got off the phone and they texted me and they said, hey, there's a couple people that I need to introduce you to. So they were still giving us referrals, even though
they were trying to
sell me something.
Right.
And they turn around and give us referrals. So it just feels like this has its own momentum. And a lot of that, like I said, it doesn't feel like this is like my brand. It's its own entity that is growing.
Right.
And especially with, what do we got? We got 6 people that are invested in it right now.
Yeah, and I guess that's our last topic, is the meeting. Yeah. Like we actually put together a real meeting, Like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm used to. I've worked in other sales and stuff, but this is like we're gonna create a culture. We're gonna keep that all the way through. So we, I truly believe, and the reason why my stoke meter is so far up, this is gonna be a Fortune 500 company at some point. You're gonna see Vardon on the Live tournament. You're gonna see Vardon on the PGA Tour. You're gonna see Vardon. Everyone's gonna see Vardon everywhere, and the reason why is because I already have a lot of energy naturally, and then as soon as we get this going, we're just going to be plowing and just growing. And so I do believe that this is going to be a Fortune 500 company. And now I totally forgot why I was saying that. But what were we talking about? Oh, the meeting. Oh yeah. Meeting. So the meeting. So we're going to start this culture of we're going to start it now. Our culture is of working at when people come. When we're Fortune, even before we're a Fortune 500 company, when people come here, they're going to enjoy working here because it's not just going to be some random meeting. We put together structure. We're gonna start that way, even though we only have 6 people.
Yeah,
like it's gonna be fun. We're gonna have breakfast and we're gonna have a good meeting, and it's gonna be a good vibe. So
something that's interesting about that too is we're gonna have a really, really good time, but part of that is because everybody that's here enjoys working hard as well.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of hard because we just went to my high school reunion, my 20-year high school reunion, which was delayed a year because of COVID. But I went there and it seemed like everybody I was talking to, they were like, dude, all you do is play all day long. And it's because I post a lot of things on social from early in the morning or late at night when I am playing.
Right.
But there's a crap ton of work that's happening between those hours. And it's going to be interesting because as we build this brand, we don't want it to be something that people look at it and they're like, all we do is we're just going to play all day long. And it's like, this really isn't like a partying brand. It's not something we've kind of talked about. There's brands that are trying to kind of drift from tradition. And my wife was even just talking about this the other day. She's like, I don't know how I feel about that tagline, drift from tradition. And I was like, well, we're not saying like we're going against the grain or we're saying like, hey, we're leaving all kinds of tradition aside. What we're saying is we're not okay with the status quo. Like, We're not okay with just like doing things the way they've always been done. We're always going to be looking to innovate. We're always going to be looking for ways to do things better and to bring our style along with it. That includes everything that's good in the world as well. And I feel like sometimes when people are talking about getting away from tradition, they're like, well, that's getting away from values and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, this isn't a party brand.
Right.
This is a professional brand that for people that know how to work hard and play hard.
Right.
And they want to kind of incorporate that fun that they have in life, the enjoyment of life. They actually enjoy life while they're working and when they're not working. They want to be able to represent that in all aspects. So when they're in a meeting, they can be authentically themselves. Just like
Harry Vardon.
Exactly.
Like that just caps the whole story, And
that's exactly why it's called Vardon. We've kind of mentioned this, but obviously he was a high performer.
Right.
He was an over-deliverer. He's one of the winningest golfers of all time. But he was still like, I'm going to bring my style with this. Like people are going to know who I am. Not to make a statement, not to stand out from people, but for people to know who you are for you.
Right.
So.
Yeah, man. So we're excited. We want you guys to follow along on our journey. And, Currently right now we're looking for interns, so
yeah.
If you're watching this before.
Yeah, so right now there's me, there's Wayment.
We're Jordan squared, by the way, because
Jordan
we're
squared.
both named Jordan, so we're going by last names, and it's something we're gonna stick with the company last names.
Yeah, so then we got 4 other people, and then we're looking to bring on like 8 to 9 more people.
Yep.
8 to 10, somewhere in there.
Women and men.
Yep.
Together. So.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's going to be a real interesting ride just over the next couple of weeks, just kind of seeing what develops and what happens. But I guess this is something that we're probably going to take like parts of this and kind of like share with different people. This is a part that I think people may want to listen to, and they're like, oh, what's this podcast going to be about? We're going to kind of document the ups and the downs and kind of like just what we're doing as we're trying to build this crazy thing.
Right, like my straight microphone holder that I have just leaning against my chair, right?
Yeah.
Like pretty soon we're when we have an HQ, a headquarters, we will have a nice, we're gonna document this all the way through. So like the haters out there that are like, oh, that's never gonna be a Fortune 500 company, you just wait, you just wait, because we just want to show the authenticity, everything behind the scenes, so that way you can be a part and enjoy the story. It's going to be a long time.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to know me as Jordan from Vardon. I'm not going to be the boat guy anymore. I'm not going to be the wakeboard guy anymore. I'm going to be the Vardon guy. That's my mission.
Yeah, but with Vardon specifically, it'll be all that with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, I'm excited about where it's at. It's funny, we were just talking in the car the other day. I know we need to probably wrap up, but we were talking in the car, and part of the beginning of this podcast, I think, is from that conversation where I was like, man, it really feels like my entire career has kind of led up to this point.
Yeah.
I feel like everything you've done in your career has led up to this point.
Right.
And everybody that we're bringing on, it feels like it's kind of that same way, which is a really good thing. Hopefully everybody feels that with wherever they're at. Hopefully their life is leading up to where they're at, and they're continually pushing harder.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I'm excited. It's going to be good.
Same.
So our next steps for us, if we don't cover it, we have our first team meeting. We're going to go over strategies.
Yep.
Then our next, what we should do is product review too. Like, go to the website and see what we have now. But I think like once we get our glove, I think we should do a podcast.
That's true.
And then also
we can talk about kind of the behind the scenes of like when we were making it, this is kind of what went into it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Part of what we want for this podcast is, we said kind of documenting the journey, but we want people to know kind of the behind the scenes. Like, these are why we're making the decisions we're making, because every garment, every piece of gear that we're going to make is going to have very high attention to detail. Everything is intentional. And anyways, so we'll share some of that stuff.
Right. Yeah, I think, And then, so we'll get a glove. Our polos are in next. And then we'll do probably another video shoot, get some more stuff on the website. Because right now it's just everything is up. Now we just got to fill everything. Yeah. We got to fill some interns. We got to fill some of our social media. Yep. And get some more content and keep going.
Yeah. I guess one other thing we haven't covered is we have a golf tournament coming up in June.
Oh, I think we need to mention that every time we get on this podcast.
Yeah, we can.
Just, hey, don't forget about the golf tournament.
Yeah, which is going to be a ton of fun. It's funny because I was like, hey, I know several people that are creators and do those kinds of things. And there was an event called Vid Summit that happened
2 weeks ago?
2-3 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Anyways, it was a little bit ago. And that's specifically what it was for. It was for creators to all come together. And so that's what we are wanting for a golf tournament, is we're actually going to be able to spread the reach, and really that's what we want. It's funny, something you had mentioned is we really need to kind of make sure that people know who Harry Vardon is.
Yeah.
So that they can start to live their lives that same way.
Right.
And so, anyways, that's kind of the idea of the golf tournament. I guess we can kind of share kind of the behind the scenes of what we're looking to do with the tournament. Yeah,
and I think, because that'd be good, because I'm trying to get everything. I want anyone who's watching this or listening to this to know where we came from, where we're at right now, and where we're going. Obviously, we want to be a Fortune 500 company, but real time, we want to have a lot of money a lot of sales sold all the way through, till June. We want to just, get some corporate sales, get people buying stuff on the website, and things of that nature. And then, so we have certain sales targets for that, and then the what we're working for real time is the golf tournament. And this golf tournament is going to be specifically for content creators. And what's going to separate our golf tournament versus any other golf tournaments is we're going to have different challenges in between the holes that are going to be lifestyle and fun stuff, like cornhole that you're going to have to launch through a air cannon.
Potato cannon,
an air cannon. Maybe we'll have like a skateboard and when someone has to try and kickflip, or I don't know. We'll figure something out for each individual hole to do something fun, like a poker hole or
we've got
just all kinds of different
kind of crazy ideas. We'll kind of share those as they kind of come up, but part of those too, well, we'll have to see.
And the purpose of that golf tournament is to really get Vardon on the map.
Yeah,
so like kind of like the big next step.
Yeah, I think maybe we should share some things like this in the podcast. So one reason, and we've talked about this, but one reason we have the golf tournament is it gives a very clear event, not too far into the future, that the whole team can kind of focus on and say, we need to accomplish all these goals by this specific date.
Right.
And so everybody that comes on, it's very clear. It's very, the more tangible you can make a goal, the higher likelihood it is that your team is actually going to hit that goal.
Right.
And so it's, all right, by June, and we'll just, I think as we say it, we'll be kind of committed to it. We want to hit 8 figures in sales by June.
Right.
We have it mapped out to where we can do that. And everybody that comes on is going to have that same mentality of we need to be there so that we can be self-sufficient by that tournament. So we can be running in the black. Go ahead.
Right, and then they'll know what they need to do to help contribute to the goals that we have by the golf tournament and how they can help contribute.
Yeah. So it's very much internal for us to be able to look at. It's also external for us to be able to get, obviously, the reach out quite a bit larger. And the golf tournament, it's going to, everybody that's going to be there, the creators are going to be there because of the other creators that are there, because they'll be able to expand their network. Each hole is going to have a sponsor to be able to help to do those crazy events and those types of things that want to be in front of those entire audiences. And for us, Vardon is backing the whole thing, so we'll obviously be able to connect with those audiences as well. So we're looking, everything that we're doing, we're trying to be very strategic and say, how can we build this with a specific business plan behind it?
Right.
So anyways, that's
the golf tournament. That's our furthest out so far. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's all the updates.
June 2023.
Yep.
So
yes. We'll keep everyone updated.
Yeah. We'll try not to make these super long, and we'll probably try to kind of condense them down so that it's not something where you're like, holy cow, this takes a long time. But maybe we'll have just long form too, because one thing we really want to do is we want to make sure that this doesn't feel like too staged and polished, like as you can tell. We just kind of jumped on.
We got the microphones up, and we're going to just start talking and try to get everyone up to date. So I think our next podcast will probably be after our next event and after some sales. I mean, we're going to be pushing this pretty hard, so there might be updates quite frequently.
Yeah.
And just keep everyone posted. But we just want to make sure you guys have a good idea of what Vardon is, what we're about, and where we're going with this. And that's why, I'm glad that we're just hacking this right now, because pretty soon we're going to have, production manager and everything, you know what I mean? Like this is going to be a big thing. And then it won't be such a hack. And then we can look back on this 5 to 10 years and be like, hey, remember that one time we tried to do a podcast? This is podcast number 1.
Yeah.
Just like when Dude Perfect, they did their first trick shot and they said, oh, Dude Perfect, like see where they grew,
Speaking of the very first thing, if you haven't, go and look at Post Malone's first music video.
Oh yeah, that's good. Dude, it made him big. Same thing. Like this is the exact same thing.
Exact same thing.
And I truly believe that people like to see that. Like I like to see it. I watch other people grow. So
yeah, and it's just funny because I'm sure we'll look back and we'll be like, ooh, we shouldn't have done that or should have done that or whatever. But if we're staying true to done is better than perfect, so we're going to make sure that we're actually jumping in. And so here's our 2 things that we're living by right now. Done is better than perfect, because otherwise I'm such a perfectionist that things just will take forever and actually never even come about.
Right.
And really, you do want to make it as close to perfect as you can, but there's a point where you got to ship it, where you're like, okay, cool, let's move forward. Otherwise, it'll just never come about.
Right.
The other motto that we live by, which is a military term.
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yeah.
So I learned that from my father-in-law. We ride dirt bikes and he just says slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And then I told it to one of my other buddies. He's like, yeah, they use that all the time. And so,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, done is better than nothing. So here we go.
Let's make it happen.
Okay. Well, now we need like some sort of sign-off, like fist bump or something. I don't know. Gunshots, but
something real corny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Travis Pastrana. Thanks, guys.